Hi everyone, Tammy here, and we've got Ryan Washington today in our Radiance Wellbeing video series where I talk to people who are active in the Vancouver, Portland area wellness community. And so Ryan is an emotional resilience coach. He specializes in meditation and alternative healing, but he's also a Reiki master and an ordained minister. So many interesting things that we can talk about today with Ryan. I met him through Breathe Wellness Company here in East Vancouver, where he teaches. I've taught. I've been his student. I've taken his breathwork classes, his bioenergetic classes, and I was absolutely blown away by his talent and his absolute mastery of his craft at such a young age. I think he's destined for greatness. And so I will hand it over to you, Ryan. If you don't mind just telling us a little bit more about your background, what if you have a mission for your business, what services you offer, that kind of thing. So take it away, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, Tammy, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. This is so good, so fun. And yes, this is something that I've definitely been wanting to do for quite some time. So thank you for having me on. And as far as myself, so I do, just like you said, a plethora of things. And a lot of these things I got into through personal experiences and the things that I wanted to do for myself, right? So right now, the main areas that I really work on are emotional resilience coaching, which is helping people to move through the beliefs that are holding them back, which there's a lot of work around this. So we take a more of a somatic approach and dive into mother and father learning. So that is one of the biggest pieces. Through that, I also incorporate meditation and, of course, breathwork practices to help and support in that healing process, and as well as the Reiki whenever it's needed. So I do offer Reiki aside from just in somatic healing work. And there's also a modality that I have created personally that I am patent pending
Hmm.
for. It's called not emotional resilience coaching, but energetic breathwork release. So
Wow.
the energetic breathwork release is a technique designed to help people move through uncomfortable emotions and what we like to call sluggish energy systems. So, you know how any trauma is really connected to the body when it happens. I define trauma as any experience that the nervous system wasn't prepared to handle. So it'll hold on to it until it feels that that cycle of trauma is complete, or if it feels okay with the thing that happening. That's when the nervous system is able to calm down. So I just take various different techniques and modalities to get that person to that point where they can really recognize or really look at whatever they went through as an experience instead of something that defines their being. So emotional resilience coaching and really energetic breathwork release in general, specifically, is geared towards helping you to get there without necessarily having to go into a memory.
Mm.
So energetic breathwork release combines breathwork, Reiki, and tuning forks all into one modality.
Oh,
So
wow.
that is one of the greatest things that I say that I've personally created. I've learned so much that I wanted to have something of my own, but also use the things that I've learned. And so I don't want to take away from any of the mentors or masters that I've worked with. Instead, I want to include them into what I'm doing now. And so I always love giving credit where credit is due, because I have a mental thought or ideas that you should always, number one, try to find a mentor and then research their mentors and work with them. So work all the way down the line as much as you can so you can learn as much as you can, and you'll learn so much about yourself and other ways of how healing can actually look and actually work.
Oh, wow. Like that. What an introduction. Oh, my goodness. So, people, if you don't know about Ryan, you now know so much more. And what a brain that you have, and what a beautiful heart that you have. Honestly, being in his classes, I must say, there's something very special about the way that um, you guide people towards that healing place. And it may take several weeks or whatever, because I know that I was in a class with you over several weeks, and some weeks the release was just like off the charts. Also the body and the mind and the spirit need to be ready for it. But after this, I'm hoping more people in our area start to be curious about what you offer, because I feel like it's something very unique. And we don't have a lot of men in the wellness space in our wider community. And so I'm so happy that you're out there doing what you do. We there's a lot of feminine energy in the wellness space, and that's fabulous. But I think having, not to say obviously we all have masculine and feminine within us, but just like a masculine presence is really, really important, I think. And like it helps to like balance out, um, you know, seeing people like yourself in this space makes me very, very excited. I wanted to go back and just maybe for people who don't quite know what somatic healing is. Like, I kind of know what it is, but maybe I don't know. And I'm sure a lot of people out there, I think it's got something to do with releasing trauma out of the body through moving or breath or thought. I'm not sure what it is. So I will let you answer that question, because it's something I think people are going to hear a lot more about. And it's one of your areas of specialty. And so I would love you to explain that.
Yeah, absolutely. So somatics, the some of the best ways, and I'll get there. So
Mm-hmm.
follow me here. One of the best ways that I can describe somatics is just allowing yourself to have every single emotion that is available to you. So in our society, we are conditioned in ways to always either be happy. Even if you look at social media, it's always about showing the highlights of your life and not necessarily the struggle times. And we may have learned, from our parents, peers, teachers, whoever, that we always have to get it right and we always should look on the bright side, right? But that negates a lot of other uncomfortable emotions. And a lot of those uncomfortable emotions are things that come with memories that we don't necessarily want to remember, or things that were hard to think about, right? It could be your first breakup, or it could even be a time where you skid your knee on the ground. All of those experiences are traumatic experiences, aka experiences that your nervous system, your body wasn't prepared to handle and move all the way through. So, in other words, I'm saying that the body wasn't ready for how that experience happened to you. So now it's like either I have to stuff it down, for example, I have to forget about this for a while, or I use other things called protectors. In my work, I call them protectors. So they could be anything from scrolling to avoidance to procrastination, anything that you do that keeps you away from feeling however you don't want to feel. So within somatic work, we look at all of the things, not all the things, but we look at the main things that really show up in your daily life that may be creating a pattern that you don't want to have anymore, a specific pattern. So if you're wanting more from your life, for example, there also may be a limiting belief that is preventing you from taking a specific action that would propel you a little bit further forward in that specific area that you are wanting to grow in. So let's see, a small example would be I want to read 20 books by the end of the year, right? And there may be some limiting thoughts that come with that. Oh, I don't read fast enough. I'm not going to have time to read every single day. I'm not going to be able to allocate the time in the evenings. I'm going to be too tired. What about dinner? What about emails? La di da di da. Right. So those would all be the thoughts that are holding us back from actually taking those steps forward. So in somatics, we would not only identify the thought, but also identify the feeling associated with that thought. Because with each thought that we think, we have an accompanying feeling. So I've heard it both ways where we either have the thought first or we have the feeling first. And me personally, from the people that I've worked with and my experience with myself, it's both ways. It's not just one or the other. But the key is to get the brain and the body on the same wavelength. So, which is another big piece of around like affirmations, for example. You hear a lot about affirmations, and in a way, affirmations are somatic, but they're only somatic once you attach a feeling to it. Once you say yes to what you actually want, then you are beginning to create through the inspired feelings that you get. You start creating the thing that you specifically want. So I also work with a lot of affirmations and help people to not only feel the affirmation, but see how far they can expand it. And I think there's not a lot of men in this healing work because they don't necessarily know how to feel. And somatics is all about feeling. The number one request that I hear from women to their man, if they're in a um, if they're in a relationship like that, where there is a masculine dominant and a feminine dominant, typically the feminine dominant person wants to feel more from their masculine dominant partner. And yes, that is something that we have to train, especially as men. We have to train that muscle, and that training comes through somatics.
Wow. Okay. That is a very comprehensive explanation. I kind of thought it was like the way that you've brought out the idea about the emotions, it didn't click to me because I felt like, okay, trauma's trapped in the body and you release it out. But I didn't get that emotion part initially when I was thinking about what somatics are. And so that has made it very, very clear. And you're right. I wonder whether it's more of a Western culture. I really don't know because I haven't done too much work in this, but I have done I did a course in consciousness and healing at the Institute of Noetic Sciences in Northern California. And that was based on healing modalities that are indigenous to different parts of the world that are non-Western healing methods. And a lot of that is more about connecting in community, feeling what you feel, having the rituals of birth, death, marriage, loss, celebration, all of those things. And I wonder whether this quashing of feelings in, in the male psyche or whatever it might be, do you think, or do you know anything about other cultures? I'm not sure if you've studied that, but it's an interesting topic to think about. Um, I'm not sure if you've got any ideas around that.
Hmm. So if you think about just, I would say I haven't necessarily researched it a lot in other cultures outside of Buddhist and Hindu cultures, but I'm mainly just focused on feelings and
Yeah.
just emotions. And just through cultures naturally over generations and generations, depending on which ethnicity you look at, the male has always been the one that goes and fights, right? Goes in, gets the food, brings it back. And the requirement for that is to be solid, to be strong. It doesn't have a lot to do with feeling a whole lot of emotions,
Mm-hmm.
right? So in the work that I do, and I also do some masculine, feminine embodiment work, embodiment practices. The masculine is designed to hold the space for the feminine or the feelings. So when we are in our feelings, we are in our feminine. When we have someone holding presence for us, they are in their masculine. So you can look at it as the masculine being the rocks on the side of a river, keeping it in a structure, and then the feminine, which is the water flowing. It can, waves can crash, or it can be a really smooth. But regardless, it always has a container where it flows in and through. So the masculine in general just was designed to be able to hold the feminine essence. And I think that's what is missing, is that learning for men to know where their feelings come into play, where the disconnection is when it comes to creating a deep, intimate, even sexual relationship with your partner, to really know them, have them be felt, seen, heard, experienced. All of that comes through your personal depth in feeling, because women in general, or feminine dominant individuals, feel a lot. Women naturally feel, and they want to they have an unlimited amount of love and feeling. And that scares the hell out of the masculine, because the masculine may not know what to do with all of those emotions, or doesn't know if those emotions can be matched, when that's not the actual purpose of the masculine emotions. It's to evoke more femininity from others, evoke more through feeling safe, because the only way those feelings are going to come up is if there's a level of safety within the relationship, the environment, all those things.
Wow.
So, mhm.
Oh, I didn't see the discussion going in this direction, but it's fun. It is so good. Yeah, it's one of those things I don't think that is spoken enough about, or there's enough awareness or learning. Even like again, I kind of thought I knew what masculine and feminine energies were, but maybe I don't. And yeah, that it's, well, with some of my training in yoga and qigong and that kind of thing, we talk about the yin and the yang, and the balance of these two beautiful pieces of the puzzle. It's like a circle that has two sides to it. So you've got the sun and the moon, and the day and the night, and the yin and the yang, and the masculine and the feminine, those kind of things. So one needs the other. It's dependent on the other. And when there's a beautiful symbiosis, then everything goes well and relationships work really well. And when it's not expressed correctly, then that's when we get into a little bit of relationship trouble as well. Wow. Okay, that was a cool sort of tangential discussion,
Mhm.
which I wanted to come back to a little bit about your background. And I asked people if they're happy to share a story about like what made you choose the kind of work that you do. And you can go as personal or not as you like. But you mentioned in the beginning that you had some of your own life experiences. And so whatever you're comfortable sharing, what brought you towards this kind of vocation in your life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will do my best with replaying the story for you
Mhm.
and see if I can shorten it, because it was a lot.
Okay.
So, uh, when it comes to like the healing work, so I started meditating when I was 12,
Mm.
because I wanted to learn how to shoot energy balls like Dragon Ball Z. That was my thing. And so with that, I learned how to like cultivate energy, right? Because the requirement was that you had to sit, meditate, you had to feel energy in between your hands, and you had to feel your dantian and all that. And so this was, way before the internet was even popular. So there wasn't many websites you can get this information from. It was literally typed up in a text document. You had to print it out and then you had to read it and follow the instructions. But I was so adamant about feeling energy and wanting that to be real for me that I really grabbed hold to that idea. And so that was really my big introduction into meditation. And that also shifted into breath work. So long before there were any breath work and meditation like tutorials, or like the piece of paper that you saw with minimal words was your tutorial, or was your instruction guide, right? So from there, I ended up stopping meditation when I was 13 or 14. I slowed it down because in my household, growing up as Baptist, it wasn't allowed because there wasn't enough information on it. This wasn't in the Bible. So I would get punished if I was caught meditating. So I would always hide it. And that eventually shifted me towards going away from it. Not for long, no. It would be intermittent periods of me going back in and leaving meditation. But throughout that, I ended up getting very much into health and wellness, just overall. After seeing my mom have a heart attack and me being the one who had to call the ambulance and having that experience, and then my dad having diabetes, he ended up getting type 1 diabetes later in life, which was very interesting. It wasn't common then. And I found that health was very important to me. And so throughout my high school and even in the college career, I really focused on health and wellness. That was my thing. Like I could tell you every ingredient that was on a nutrition list, that was on any type of label. I could tell you exactly what it is, where it's from, because I didn't want those same things, those same patterns that my parents were having happen to them. I didn't want that to happen to me. And so that also led me into being very body focused and turned into even some body shaming when I started doing men's physique competitions and bodybuilding competitions, and even training people for physique bodybuilding competitions and whatnot, because it's all superficial. So I got away from a lot of the spiritual work and I went deeper into some of the like very superficial work, I would say, because it would, even with me having the body that I wanted, I didn't feel satisfied. Even with me having six pack and muscles, outside of a photo, my life wasn't it didn't feel like me. It didn't feel authentic. And nor did I get what I actually thought I was going to receive when I got the body that I wanted. Right. I wasn't happy with where I was, where I lived, wasn't happy with, because right, I wanted girls. Right. I was the typical coach. I was great at coaching, and I wanted girls. I wanted cars. I wanted women. I wanted the material things. And so, but once I got the body that I wanted, I didn't get those things. That didn't come with it. There was still more work to be done. Nor was I happy when I did end up getting the girl that I wanted or those things. So it led me to knowing that there was more in life that I wasn't getting. From there, I ended up going into healthcare, so risk management for psychiatric hospitals, thinking that that would be an area where I can create some change, because that was really what I wanted to do, was create some sort of change in the world that was not so superficial, because I saw how the mindset of people were when they were in the bodybuilding or any type of industry that requires their looks to create their value. And when I was in that industry, I just noticed like, okay, this is actually not working, because on the outside, it's creating a false narrative and a false sense of truth. When the people that they're looking at and looking up to are actually coming to me because they're struggling with food addiction, they're struggling with like, different challenges, just overall. And I was like, okay, how can I address this in a different way? So went into the psychiatric world, specifically in risk management, and learned that that was not for me either, because you're just saving companies from getting sued. What risk management is. Let's just call it like it is. So from there, I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And I ended up going into the healing work. I went through a program called Training Camp for the Soul, which is specifically a program to help you move through limiting beliefs, which at the time I wasn't familiar with them. I was only familiar with, okay, I know how to meditate. I know what my chakras are. I know how to breathe. And I thought that was all that I needed, but that was just the foundation. And when I went into that program, I noticed that I just had a whole lot of awareness of my problems, but I didn't really have any solutions. And I didn't know how to move through those emotional challenges and traumas that I had experienced over my life until I got into that program. And my partner at the time, when we got together, she wanted to do the program with me. So I was like, okay, let's do this program together. And we kicked up a whole lot of internal dust in our experiences, right? Because we got to see and notice how we were living and how the patterns that we had are playing out in our current world and our current realities, and how we may have either been judging ourselves or projecting our idea of how the other person should be in our relationship. We had a lot of unspoken expectations that we didn't share or didn't know how to share or thought that it would be too scary to share even. And so we learned new communication styles on how to communicate that through nonviolent communication, how to move through specific emotional experiences in a way that feels supportive and nurturing instead of scary. Because going back and almost reliving in a sense, these experiences can be really scary because the body is going to respond in a way that it thinks it's going to die, or it thinks that the same experience is going to happen to them again. It's going to feel the same experience pattern, all of it. So we learn just different ways to move through those different emotions, which are generating the fear of that experience. From there, while I was in that program, I synchronistically got a call from my Reiki teacher. So in that time, I'd done Reiki 1 and 2, but I didn't really do anything with it. Like I learned it, had it, but I didn't have the confidence to go out in the world and say, hey, this is what I do, just from my past trauma of being rejected and really feeling rejected when I was doing meditation. So I still had a lot of fear about putting myself out in the world and feeling the world's rejection, when really it was my own rejection that I was feeling. So got a synchronistic call from my mentor, Jeff. He's in Nashville, Tennessee, which is where I'm from. And he said, Ryan, are you still personal training? And at the time I was dabbling in it. I was leaving that space, leaving that world, and just had a couple clients part-time. And I told him, yeah, I'm still personal training a little bit, taking on a few clients. And he said, well, if you personal train me, I will teach you everything that I know. And I was like, oh, well, this is perfect. And this was synchronistically at the same time where I had actually lost my job. This is 2020. Got let go, uh, got a little package so I could live for a little while to decide what I wanted to do. And then this just laid in my lap. So from that, I ended up learning Reiki 3 mastery level, quantum light healing, which is his personal modality, tarot reading, um, house clearing, and distance healing. So I learned basically everything that he could teach me as far as energy work. And then at that same time, I was going through somatic practicing for myself. So I got a massive universal download and crash course into this. From there, I ended up going to some retreats and co-facilitating some retreats so I could practice my craft, practice my modalities. And that really allowed me to see the impact, to get the real-time feedback of what I was doing and how it was affecting the world. And also giving me more validation, even though I was creating my own validation internally, it gave me that external life validation that what I was doing was making a difference. Energy is being felt. Emotions are being moved from what I was doing. And so from that, ended up shifting back into my own personal business. I was like, hey, I think I'm ready to start my own business. And my partner, she was on board. We went through a mastery program after we went through the 90-day program of Training Camp for the Soul. We went through Training Camp Mastery, which was a year of just internal, like deep internal work training. And that was a lot. So I can say that everything that I teach now, uh, and really everything that I help people work through, I've done myself. So I can really say that I was and am always still my first client.
Wow,
Mhm.
that's an incredible journey and so much learning. That's and how beautiful with that serendipity of your teacher and your master doing that barter trade of personal training, and how wonderful. And that was through like the pandemic
Mhm.
that year. Wow. Yeah, a lot
Mhm.
of things changed for a lot of people in that year. I think I did my training as well in that year, and I a lot of people, like, I have a similar story that I did my training and I didn't know who to teach or what to teach, and my friend said, "Oh, you've got to teach us over Zoom because we're all locked in our houses." And it kind of, yeah, there's that validation that you feel that you're what you have to offers can help other people, and really, it's such a calling. Um, I think I was speaking to someone else saying it's almost like you can't not do it. You've just got to do it because it's your life trajectory takes you in that direction. And uh, I understand what you're saying about going through all of the things yourself, and I think it's a very common story that people, you know, who need healing help to heal others after going through facing what their wounds were, and coming through the other side, or still working on themselves. I mean, I'm always working on myself, and the ripe old age. I'm going to be 55 this year, so I'm still working on myself. And you know, the learning never stops, and that's the great thing. And I'm always interested to hear what people have to say about like some really impactful lessons that they learn from their clients. So have you learned anything, like, can you think of any one or two instances where you had a client and then suddenly it made such a difference in your outlook or the way that you teach or your life, or taught you something? um
Mhm. Yeah, every session, I would say. Every session. First off, I have affirmations that I do before every session to make sure that if it's an energy clearing session or energy healing session, I make sure that I get out of the way because
mm,
it's not me doing the work. It is me being a vessel for the energy to help the other person do their own work. So, and same goes for in the sessions, in the emotional resilience coaching sessions that I do. I make sure that I am not there to solve the problem for them, but I am there to help them clear the energy that is preventing them from having the clarity to find the solution that works for them, if that makes sense.
mhm,
I'm there
mhm,
to help them create clarity. Same thing for energy work, it's just a different way of doing it.
mhm,
And so from that, I've seen amazing things. I've seen like one of my past clients, she she was in transition of jobs. Most of the time, people come to me, funny enough, when they've had a traumatic experience happen in their life. They've lost a job, lost a family member, lost something has been lost, or they're looking for their passion and don't know where to start, and they're needing somebody to guide them to get some clarity. So those are the reasons that people begin to work with me
mhm.
one on one. I wish it was sooner, and I hope it is
Yeah,
moving forward.
yeah.
Um, and that's perfectly fine if it is. So I've had, and specifically this individual, they had left their job because they didn't feel like they were being treated right, and they wanted to start their own thing, but they didn't necessarily know what to do or how to do it, or where to start. And that can be very overwhelming, especially when we're coming from the world of being the not only being the worker bee, but just being in the corporate world and then going to moving to do your own thing. You make your own schedule, you got to figure out how you're going to make money, you're going to
Yeah.
pay bills, and all that can be really heavy on the system. right? And that can drive our behavior into like fear, really just a lot of fear, and taking action from like an uncomfortable place. And you can really run yourself down that way. And so this individual was really trying to find where they fit in the world, like trying to make an impact, but also trying to make an income. So throughout the time we worked together, we did quite a bit of energy work just to clear some of the specific energy that was in the body that may have been trapped and stuck. And the way that you find that is, number one, where do you hold your attention? When you feel upset, where do you feel that in your body? So really getting and gaining a lot of body awareness so that you can know and start beginning to body map your own system. So a lot of the key in this work is being able to map your own system so you know what's being triggered, how it's being triggered, if it's being triggered from a past experience or a present experience, if this is something new or something that you learned, a learned experience. Um, so over time, and I worked with her for about 6 months, give or take 6 months, and she went from not necessarily knowing what to do to starting her own business. And I can't tell you what she does because I don't understand. But I know she started an amazing business, and so now she makes six figures in her business
Wow.
within a year. And this is definitely not an uncommon story. It is just an experience that it was something that she needed to find the confidence in herself to do.
Mm.
And really being clear about what her passion was, really being clear about what her intention was when she would actually put in work. So giving her more direction. How I've seen this in my own life is I am now living the exact life that I wanted to live 10 years ago. Like everything that I do now, from having my own clients, from living in Oregon, which one of my old limiting beliefs was I would never leave Nashville, Tennessee, because my parents never left Nashville, Tennessee. So I'm always stuck here, right? I won't be able to find a partner um, that I can commit to, that I can fully love, because I didn't know what love was. So from that now, I know exactly what love is, right? I know how to challenge my thoughts, challenge my thinking, which challenges my beliefs. And I understand that my nervous system is going to it's going to be crickly some days. I'm going to feel angry some days. I'm going to feel frustrated, upset. And frustration is just a catch all for maybe sadness or maybe envy or jealousy that someone else has something that you don't. It could be any of those things. And so I understand now that all of those feelings are a part of the process. Even when it's time for me to, for example, increase my price, right? Now that I've done a certain amount of work, I've done a little bit more. I feel a little bit more confident. Now it's time to up the price. So now I get to see, okay, what are the stories that I'm telling myself that are keeping my price the same? That's keeping my value here instead of what it's truly valued at. So that's really how it's impacted my life. And that's just kind of like small examples. When it comes to my relationship with my partner, I know that I can be more vulnerable because I can catch myself regardless of if she, for example, rejects me, because that's the biggest reason why we don't bring things up with our partners that may feel uncomfortable, right? There may be a feeling of rejection, potential rejection in that. So being able to work through that and knowing that I have myself at all times, right? That I'm going to be heard and she wants to hear me, right? Changing the story that's running the show in the head so that I can also change the feelings and emotions that I have in my body. A lot of people do this work, from Brene Brown to um, Dr. Joe Dispenza,
Mm.
you know, all of these people. It's all the same work said in a different way, so that hopefully it lands for people in a different way. So that's really all I do, is help it land in a different way so that you can get the result that you want.
Oh, fantastic.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. So I'm sure by now everyone is as impressed with Ryan as I am and would like to know more about where you have your services, or where you operate from, where can people find you, how can they connect with you, and just also briefly tell people you are between Portland and Vancouver, right? So
Mhm.
what's the best way for people to get in touch with you and find you?
Yeah, for sure. So you can check out my website. It is consciousconnectionacademy.com. So I've started a little mystery school of healing. And so in there, I have all of the dates for upcoming events, classes, and I also have an online community, just the Conscious Connection Academy community. It's on the website as well. And in there, we do emotional healing. We have weekly breathwork calls. So every Monday and every Friday, we have a breathwork call. We also do different meditation practices in there as well. We talk about sex, love, and relationships, since my partner is a sex, love, and relationship coach. So we dive deep into virtually every area of life because we all have them. And we really unpack them and see what we can do to progress a little bit more. There's a women's group in there as well as a men's group coming. And we also talk about money, which is another big piece in that group. So the best place to start, if I would say this for anyone who is new to my work, I would say start there, with the community group for sure. But I also do in-person sessions for emotional resilience coaching, as well as breathwork, meditation, energetic breathwork release. I do all those at Breathe, so you can check out the Breathe website, breathewellnesscompany.com. And you can also find me on Instagram, conscious_Ryan. I just post some really cool tips to get you through your day, breathwork, meditation practices, different things like that. But if there's anything that you want to know about me, please ask away. I'm also on Insight Timer, last place I'll advertise. And I'm on there typically weekly hosting online breathwork sessions.
Okay, fabulous. So I will put all the links under this video so that you can get in touch with Ryan and see what he's all about. And I follow him on Instagram. He does these little snippet videos every day, very, very useful information. And I want to thank you so much, Ryan, for being with me on the video show today. And everyone, looking forward to seeing you on the next episode. May the radiance be with you. And signing off, Chief Radiance Officer Tammy, on this journey. And love and blessings always to everybody, everywhere. Bye.